to the very first video of Stories with Sez, and this is something that I have been thinking about for quite a while, and yeah, I just don't know how to describe it really, to be honest. So I will give you guys a little bit of a hint on what I'm going to be doing. So at the end of each month, I'm going to be reading a story to autistic children between the ages of 4 and 13. However, and this is a big however, I know a couple of YouTubers who have babies and toddlers who are not on the spectrum, so I decided to include them as well. So instead of reading stories just to autistic children only, I've decided to read stories for everybody. Today I'm going to be reading The Adventures of Tom Kitten, and this is a book that I found just recently. I have little separate books in the box that I was given to when I was a baby, but I cannot find them anywhere. But I did manage to find this. It just appeared out of the blue, and I thought I would read one story from Treasured Tales. And the story I'm going to be reading to you today is The Tale of Tom Kitten. I wanted to read this because of Peter Rabbit, which is currently in cinemas, but I don't know if it's in cinemas anymore. But yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to get down into the story, and if you have any suggestions for the next video, let me know in the comments and I will get onto it as soon as possible. So without further ado, let's get down to The Tale of Tom Kitten. The Tale of Tom Kitten by Beatrix Potter. Once upon a time there were 3 little kittens, and their names were Mittens, Moppet and Tom Kitten. They had dear little fur coats of their own, and they tumbled about the doorstep and played in the dust. But one day their mother, Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit, expected friends to tea, so she fetched the kittens indoors to wash and dress them before the fine company arrived. First, she scrubbed their faces. This one is Moppet. Then she brushed their fur. That's Mittens. Then she combed their tails and whiskers. This is Tom Kitten. Tom was very naughty and he scratched. Yikes, that is one naughty kitten. Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit dressed Moppet and Mittens in clean pinafores and tuckers. And then she took all sorts of elegant, uncomfortable clothes out of the chest of drawers in order to dress up her son Thomas. Tom Kitten was very fat and he had grown. Several buttons burst off. His mother sewed them on again. Oh no, poor Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit. When the 3 kittens were ready, Mrs. Tabitha unwisely turned them out into the garden to be out of their way while she made some hot buttered toast. Now keep your frocks clean, children. You must walk on your hind legs. Keep away from that dirty ash pit and from Sally Henny Penny and from the pigsty and the puddled ducks. Moppet and Mittens walked down the garden path unsteadily. Presently they trod upon their pinafores and fell on their noses. When they stood up, there were several green smears. "Let us climb up the rockery and sit on the garden wall," said Moppet. They turned their pinafores back to front and went with a skip and a jump. Moppet's white tucker fell into the road. Tom Kitten was quite unable to jump when walking upon his hind legs in trousers. He came up the rockery by degrees, breaking the ferns and shedding the buttons right to left. He was all in pieces when he reached to the top of the wall. Moppet and Mittens tried to pull him together, but his hat fell off and the rest of his buttons burst. While they were in difficulties, there was a pit-pat waddled pat, and the 3 puddle ducks came along the hard high road, marching one behind the other and doing the goose step. Pit-pat, puddle-pat, pit-pat, waddle-pat. They stopped and stood in a row and stared up at the kittens. They had very small eyes and they looked surprised. Then the two duck birds, Rebecca and Jemima Puddle Duck, picked up the hat and tucker and put them on. Mittens laughed that she fell off the wall. Moppet and Tom descended after her. The pinafores and all the rest of Tom's clothes came off on the way down. "Come, Mr. Drake Puddle Duck," said Moppet. "Come and help us to dress him. Come and button him up, Tom." Mr. Drake Puddle Duck advanced in a slow sideways manner and picked up the various articles, but he put them on himself. They fitted him worse than Tom Kitten. "It's a very fine morning," said Mr. Drake Puddle Duck. And he and Jemima and Rebecca Puddle Duck set off upon the road keep step. Pit pat waddle pat, pit pat waddle pat. And he and Jemima and Rebecca Puddle Duck set off upon the road keeping step. Pit pat paddle pat, pit pat waddle pat. Then Tabitha Twitchit came down to the garden and found her kittens on the wall with no clothes on. She pulled them off the wall, smacked them, and took them back to the house. "My friends will arrive any minute, and you are not fit to be seen." "I am affronted," said Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit. She then sent them upstairs. And I'm very, very sorry to say that she told her friends that they were in bed with the measles, which is not true. Quite the contrary, they were not in bed. Well, not in the least. Somehow there were very extraordinary noises overhead which disturbed the dignity and repose of the tea party. And I think that someday I shall have to make another, larger book to tell you more about Tom Kitten. As for the Puddle Ducks, they went into a pond. The clothes came off directly because there were no buttons. And Mr. Drake Puddle Duck and Jemima and Rebecca have been looking for them ever since. And that is the end of the story of the Tale of Tom Kitten. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you with another Stories with Sez next month. Bye bye.